All right. Well, hey, please join me again in congratulating Alabaster Blue for a great presentation. And also, please join me once again in a round of applause for all of the faculty, staff, and students who were nominated for this year's awards and who were recognized before and during our musical interlude. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ned Dane. I'm a proud Wildcat. I'm a proud spouse of a proud Wildcat. Class of 1988 for UNH. I'm also the co-chair of UNH's Sustainability Advisory Board, and I also serve on the UNH Foundation Board, and it is so awesome to be back here in Durham today. All right, so I'm standing in today for our colleague, Kelly Calhoun, Executive Director, Alumni Relations, who expertly chaired this committee. My sincere thanks to Kelly and all the other members of this committee for your service. We were excited to launch the Alumni Sustainability Awards this year for the first time because we know that there are thousands of alumni from really across the past 4 or 5 decades, across the country and around the world, who are leaders in sustainability in their profession and in their civic lives. These alumni are valuable parts of UNH's sustainable learning community, and we're so excited to welcome 3 exemplary leaders and role models back to campus today to achieve these honors. We are recognizing 2 awardees in the category of alumni who graduated in the last decade, or Gold Alumni. Great. So, our first award recipient during his time at UNH, Zach Angelini, earned a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Engineering and a Master's of Science in Civil Engineering, for which he completed graduate work on critical research on oil spill response and marine plastic pollution. He also co-founded UNH's Solar Powers for Schools, helping bring renewable energy to schools in Africa. He joined Timberland immediately after graduation, and after gaining an impressive reputation globally for his leadership in sustainability in the footwear industry, he was elevated to Senior Manager of Environmental Stewardship at Timberland, and that was back in 2021. He was also named to the highly coveted Green Biz 30 Under 30 for emerging leaders in business sustainability around the world, and Draper's 30 Under 30, which recognizes rising stars in fashion retail. Please join me in congratulating Zach. After fleeing Somalia's capital of Mogadishu some 31 years ago, Decca started a life in the U.S., earning not only 1, but 2 master's degrees and working her way up to become the nation's first Somali-American mayor when she was selected as the mayor of South Portland in December of last year. She's a 213 graduate of the Carsey School of Public Policy's Master's in Community Development Policy, and she has dedicated her life to human rights and to social justice causes. Decca's career has included decades of impactful work on the ground with Maine's immigrant and refugee communities, and she was elected to the South Portland City Council in 2018. After 3 years on the council, advocating for affordable housing, quality education, and a clean environment, Decca was selected to become mayor of South Portland by her peers. Please join me in congratulating Decca. And I'm also very honored to recognize another alumni for a Lifetime Achievement Award. Bob Levitt graduated from UNH in the class of 1988. Very strong year, 1988. Same year as I did. And he graduated with degrees in International Affairs and English, we share that major, and minors in Spanish and Art History. That ends the comparison between me and Bob. He spent the first 10 years of his career working for international NGOs, leading field coordination efforts in sub-Saharan Africa. Bob joined USAID, or the United States Agency for International Development, in 2001 as a senior conflict advisor for the Bureau of Africa. He went on to serve as the Director of African Affairs for the National Security Council at the White House, and then to return to USAID, rising to be the Chief Human Capital Officer. Bob's act of ultimate leadership occurred over a 25-day period in 2001 when thousands of Afghan refugees were arriving in the U.S. but had no coordinated U.S. governmental response. Alerted to the situation, Bob deployed and had on site within 90 minutes the government's first full team to organize and support Afghan arrivals. He mobilized and led hundreds of volunteers to receive, support, and process 45,521 evacuated Afghan nationals. He ensured they regularly reassessed fast-moving operations, provided the necessary support and management under extraordinary conditions. He was USAID's largest domestic deployment. It was USAID's largest domestic deployment in its 60-year history, and it was the largest wave of immigration in the U.S. history in one location over an extremely brief period of time. And that's not all. The key arc in his career has ranged from leading field operations to shaping national security policy at the NSC. And the further he went in his career, he became increasingly passionate to support others to serve, which led to his transition to talent management, and he's a leader in developing the next generation of leaders for our country. Bob's impact will continue. In February of this year, he took on a new role, and he took his oath of service as a Deputy Assistant Secretary, serving as the Chief Human Capital Officer at the Department of Health and Human Services. Please join me in congratulating Bob Levitt. So we thought with this distinguished panel, we would spend a couple of minutes having a little bit of a moderated discussion. I'm going to join you guys over there. I think is there another microphone? Great, perfect. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Bob. All right. Wow. So I have a couple questions. I think it would be great to kind of go around the group here. And the first one is a pretty high-level question, which is, in the broadest of definitions, what does sustainability mean to you? And why does thinking about sustainability matter? And maybe, Zach, I'll start with you on that question.
Sure. Is this on? Yeah. Yes. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. So excited to be back on campus. In terms of that question, I guess just answering first from the corporate perspective, I think to me, sustainability really is just simply a better way to do business. It's about creating more value for more stakeholders over a longer period of time, creating a healthier, more resilient business. And so really to me, it's just simply like a natural advancement on what it means to do good business as in an evolving society. I think thinking a bit broader, something that I get really excited about is evolving kind of what sustainable means from today. I think it can often be approached as a do less harm or do no harm type model, like going as if neutrality was the goal. But I think really where it's going is the goal being going beyond neutrality to actually not just do less harm, but create positive impacts and actually heal and restore the environments that we do business in or source from. I'm thinking as a person working for a company that sources materials from natural environments. To me, that's really where things are going, is going beyond do less harm to actually doing more good, and I think that's what really motivates me.
Thank you very much. Decca, could you maybe pick up on that from the standpoint of local government and how you think about that?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Thank you for being here. Invited me and just took me some. I remember eating at that area, and it's just beautiful to be here. So for me, sustainability means that it's not only for the environment, it's also about housing, about education, about, food insecurity. And you guys talked about all of that here earlier when you come up. And staff and faculty and all of you guys do exactly what we do when it comes to local level. And for me, I have the privilege of not doing that front job that you all doing. It's just behind the scenes for me by making policies. From the city of South Portland, what we have is a sustainability office where we really support the director for those policies when she puts in front of us. And it is also a privilege to be in a space where most of our city councilors have the same values, right? It doesn't mean that some of our neighboring cities have that kind of, city councilors who believe in sustainability, who believe in, environmental protection, who believe in community-based organizations being partners. So we are privileged, in other words, to have 7 strong city councilors who believe in, environmental protection. For example, we do have 100 years old of tanks in South Portland. I don't know, those of you who may know that, and none of those years have been looked into by the EDP, what is it, Environmental Protection Department, whether it is for the state level or federal level. So we really had that power, 7 city councilors who said that this is really making our residents really sick, and we really need to measure the pollution that are coming out of this. And some of those tanks are really been there for 100 years and no use. Nobody's using it. So why are they there? And polluting in the soil, polluting in the air, and all of that. People are living near the abutters that are close to those tanks. So we are really glad to have such a strong sustainability office. We are also part of the One Climate Future with a couple of our city neighboring cities where we really be part of it. And just last year, we created a non-for-profit organization within the city of South Portland called, and I wrote it down, I didn't want to make any mistakes here. Let's see, where is it? Oh, well, anyway, we did that. We did that. You can Google it. You will find it. So, in other words, they will do the work for us at the city council, because we do have so many other policies and, laws that we need to really do. And also, most people think about the state level policy making, but it is all about the local level. And it starts from the bottom to up. So if we do not have any strong policy making in the local level, I don't think we're going to be having any strong when it comes to the state level and also federal level.
So speaking of the federal level, Bob, I'd love to get your thoughts about what sustainability means to you and how you approach that in your daily life.
For me, it goes back to my experience working overseas in the 1990s, right after UNH. The centrality of human dignity and human-centered design, and the centrality of that in even humanitarian situations, emergency relief situations, where we have to look beyond the visible vulnerability at times that we may see, and see the extraordinary capacity and skills and knowledge with those whom we work, even in the most difficult and challenging environments, is looking at the capacities that people always can bring to bear. It's not just about us helping with some external help. It is about cultivating and supporting the strength of those people around us, and paying and drawing on that throughout our careers and opportunities, through experience, informing policies and programs, as Decca had mentioned, as well as supporting the talent of the future, developing for all of us and all the great stories that we heard today. It's forwarding our passion in support of communities and the skills and capacities of communities, while also developing the leaders of the future to do what we all are inspired to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe picking up on leadership for a minute. As we look at the world around us, especially over the past few years, there are challenges almost undimensionable. Racial injustice, issues of global climate, concerns, the global pandemic, inequality, inequities, all of those things. Clearly, leadership is needed at all levels. And Decca, maybe I'd start with you to think about how you think about the leadership traits that need to sort of get us through this.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that, for example, talking about the pandemic, in Maine, we are 1.6% people of color. And we had the highest infection in COVID-19 in the state of Maine, highest in the nation, actually, not in the state of Maine. And we have been talking to DHS, Department of Health and Human Services, CDC, and asking them, you have to provide programs that are really working with those folks, people who speak their language, and making sure they get in the how do you say? For example, I'm just trying to be a politician here so that I can just dance around some of the things. So what we were asking for the DHS, Department of Health and Human Services, was to provide people who can speak the same language of those communities that were affected by the COVID. But we were not listened to. So we had to really go through so many people dying for COVID when we were heard. So when we're talking about leadership, and those of you who might have the power to do that, make sure that you bring people who are different than you, who do not look like you, who are do not have power, whose voices are not heard, so that we make sure they are being seen. So usually if you don't see those people, nothing will happen. I was looking at the great work that you all doing and hardly see people of color being part of it, right? So that is also a leadership, I would say, failure, but I'm so sorry I said that. But but we need those voices to be lifted up. For example, for myself, I never wanted to run for office. I was always said that I can work behind the scenes, providing technical support or whatever that is for folks. But no matter what I do, I find out that leadership is missing from that table where decisions are being made. So I took that initiative and I stepped up and I said, I want to run for office and be that voice. And as I said, my city councilors are amazing human beings, but they never lived my life. So they don't understand that. But when they hear from my voice saying this and that, they will say, oh, wow, I never thought of that. But that doesn't mean they are saying no to me. They say, I never thought of that, so that let's do it. Let's move forward. So there is that need of that folks who are coming from different backgrounds, and it comes back to intersectionality, right? And to make sure we're just lifting up other voices that are missing on the table. So it took us a while to really talk to DHS and CDC, and it took a lot of people's lives. A lot of community leaders that we have in our community died, and then they realized we need to really step up and making sure we're giving funding for those community-based organizations so that they can give people ways to quarantine. Because if you are a father and working at the, let's say, Maine Medical Center, and you are a janitor, and you catch COVID there, because there are COVID patients there, you come back home and you give your children, you give it to your wife, and also immigrants, we live as, generations, multi-generational, so grandparents, all of that, and people get sick, and they don't have a space to quarantine themselves. So the funding came after that, but unfortunately, a lot of people had to die before we get to it. So let's just make sure that in our leadership, we have those voices that are missing, and for you guys to take a look at your hiring process and making sure you're hiring people who are missing from those tables, especially when it comes to EDIs and diversity, equity, and inclusions.
Thank you. Zach, thank you. Zach, I'd love to get your thoughts on leadership and what sort of brings us to address all of these big issues in our society and our world today.
Yeah, so the characteristic that comes top of mind for me is really collaboration. I think one of the quotes I really love is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this applies to us working on sustainability at Timberland in a big way, because we have these goals that we've put out there that are really bold goals to reduce our environmental impact. And what we found is that the biggest unlocks for us to actually achieve that are to collaborate with our competitors in the industry, because we have so many of the same challenges and goals that other companies who might be considered our competitors do as well. But we found that there's major opportunities for pre-competitive collaboration to address those collective frictions and obstacles that all of these companies have. And so that's majorly helped us move the needle on sustainability. And one of the things that I've recently been really excited about is actually thinking about really unlikely collaboration across industries. And I think this can be a huge unlock for business as a whole. One that we're really excited about is collaborating with the food industry, which I would have never thought of before coming to work at Timberland. But actually, we source many natural materials. It's leather, natural rubber, cotton, wool. And so our supply chains overlap in a big way with the food industry. And so we've realized that we can actually partner with other major players in the food industry to help co-fund and cost share farmers' transitions to more sustainable and regenerative agriculture. When we look at our impact, that's the biggest lever that we have to reduce our impact and get into what I was saying about creating a positive impact is at that farm level, and just in thinking kind of outside the box. And it takes some extra time to set up these collaborative relationships, but then we're just able to go so much further and faster once we do that. So I think that's going to be a really big unlock going forward.
Thank you. Bob, do you have any other thoughts to add to that topic? And I'd also like to get your thoughts. We were talking about a lot of pretty heavy topics here, the big things that we're dealing with in our world around us. But the more time I spend with people who are focused on the broad topic of sustainability, the more inspired I am by their optimism. And I'd love to get your thoughts on what motivates you and where do you see hope in all of this as well?
See plenty of opportunities for hope moving forward, and that is the example of today. As several of us were saying before, just before this session, it's humbling to listen to the extraordinary stories that all of you had and all of you bring to bear in these accomplishments. And that's one of the reasons why it's just absolutely phenomenal to keep coming back to UNH to see all the great work that you all are doing. That inspires hope moving forward. Just on that broader topic of leadership, I was going to speak about voice, and Decca touched on the importance of voice, and I was going to mention collaboration, and Zach really hit on collaboration. But Ned, we're both English majors and we're both in the same class, so I'd like to reiterate just in terms of skills for sustainability and for leadership, writing is fundamental. Writing is an absolutely fundamental skill to not just for the grant dollars, but for communicating what is so important for us and to help inspire others through a range of media. And just as an example, in my capacity in supporting talent and development, I see a lot of resumes. I speak with a lot of people, and I do have a resume from one person here that shared with me that I'll be meeting afterwards who emphasized writing in their resume. And that really resonates because that is such a fundamental skill. So basic leadership skills for sustainability and for success, writing. Also, as Decca was saying, the voice. Listening is absolutely imperative. Listening to those with whom we work, asking ourselves if we're really listening and understanding. If we are always preparing for what we're about to say or what we're about to ask with that conversation in our head, maybe we're not really listening as much. And if we find ourselves talking too much, is reminding ourselves to wait as an acronym. Why am I talking? Like I'm doing right now, Ned.
I love that. I'm going to work I'm taking that with me. I love that. Wait, it's perfect. Thank you. Thank you. That is, I couldn't agree more about the importance of communication in any business that you're in any pursuit in life. That is critically important as an English major, but also as a person. So thank you. Zach, I'd love to get your thoughts about what inspires you and what do you see as the opportunities ahead?
Yeah, one thing that I'm just particularly amped up about right now is regenerative agriculture. This is something that is really impacts our business, the business that I work in fashion, but like I mentioned, food as well. For anyone that's not familiar with it, regenerative agriculture is basically a way of farming that mimics natural processes to pull carbon out of the atmosphere where we obviously don't want it and get it back in the soil where it belongs, and it has a host of positive benefits like building soil health and creating more biodiversity, replenishing water cycles, improving farmer livelihoods. There's kind of like this win-win-win solution that's really actually based on ancient indigenous knowledge on how to partner with nature. It's almost like a form of biomimicry, tapping into the billions of years of research and development that nature has around how to get carbon back in the ground where it belongs. And it's something that the modern science is really just grasping the full potential of today. The International Panel on Climate Change had this in one of their recent reports as one of humanity's top tools to not just slow climate change down, but actively reverse it. So that kind of gets back to the point I was saying earlier of this idea of let's not talk about how do we emit less carbon or emit less pollution only anymore. Obviously, that's incredibly important. But let's talk about how to actually sequester more carbon, restore biodiversity, bring more life and abundance and resilience and even beauty back to the landscapes that we source from or live or are involved in some way. And really just speaking from Timberland perspective in the fashion industry, something that we're really excited about is fashion is typically focused on making beautiful products. What's really exciting to me about regenerative agriculture is it opens up this opportunity to expand the definition of fashion from being just about making beautiful products to actually being about making the world more beautiful through how our products are sourced and created. And so that gives me a lot of hope and optimism.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Thank you. Decca, please bring us home on this question.
Talking about 1,000 years ago, how we really need to preserve our environment. I remember when I was very young, maybe 6 years old, 5 years old, I remember my parents telling me not to walk on the ground hard because it has a feeling and it gets hurt, so don't do that. And coming to United States and 30 years later, not that I am 34, but being here 30 years, I just hear a lot of people, talking about the environment, how to protect it. I'm like, we've been doing this for a very long time. I remember certain songs that is made to ask the environment to forgive us for abusing it. For certain people, even we call it istun. Istun means beat yourselves. So some people beat themselves just to say sorry to the environment. But what gives me hope is the youth. The youth that we have today in this country is really, really charged, and they are energized, and they are open, and they are inclusive, and they are welcoming, and looking what's coming from, and I base all things politics. I don't know if you guys are, because everywhere that you look into, there is a policy or a politics that is behind it. And I like what I see in our youth. At the city council level, when George Floyd was murdered in front of all of us, we really kind of talked about what we need to do as leaders of the city of South Portland. And a lot of people talked about, let's just create a PIPOC, people of color, indigenous, the acronym, right? Yeah. My brain is not working. I've been traveling from Washington to Farmington to, where am I now? Just kidding. So they will ask, to create that kind of organization so that they can do something about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I usually take a day or two to step back and think about things and, work on my little brain computer. So I get back to my community members who are white Americans, immigrants, Black, indigenous people, and I said, how about if we create a commission that is called Human Rights Commission? And everybody liked it. And that is it's the first Human Rights Commission within a municipality in the state of Maine. We do have a state of Maine Human Rights Commission, but this is city level and municipal level. And what I said was we need to get at least, and this is an ordinance, and we just created it from the get-go. And what we asked was to have each councilor to get one person from their community or their district, and also 2 at large, and that was it. So I said, But that's not enough. We are missing a youth voice here. And the reason that I said that is my daughter, who's 21 years old now, sit on the school board in her school representing the students 2 years in a row. And she said, Mom, these people, they do not listen to what we have or the advices that we give. In other words, they do not have a vote. So I said, I need a youth who has a vote in this commission. And we get that. So I'm saying this because I believe in our youth. I think they're the future of our country, and they're the leaders of tomorrow. So we really have a lot of work to do as older people to uplift them, to work with them, just exactly what you're doing right here in UNH, and uplift their voices and tell them that you matter. You matter, and you are my tomorrow. So I'm telling you, all of those young people who are here today, you are my tomorrow. And I am working for you today so that you work for me tomorrow. So that's my hope, the youth.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'd just like to say thank you very much to Decca and Zach and Bob for your comments and for a great conversation. Don't leave the stage. I'd like to ask President Dean to come up here as well. He's going to close out our presentation, but we'd like to do a quick photograph with him as well. So congratulations and thank you for all that you do, and keep up the unbelievable, inspiring work. Thank you.